Hey, look at that. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. John Resso with Wales Darby, Jim DePalma with Wales Darby, and we are lucky enough this morning, we're going to talk a lot about electric boilers, electro boilers. We have Dean and Dennis with us all the way from Minnesota. It's a nice early morning, and we appreciate them getting up and adding to the presentation. So right out of the gate, let's see here. There we go. If you have questions or you need the literature, over on the right-hand side of your screen, you can go to the download section. You'll have a brochure. The Electro catalog will be in there for you to grab, and you can download that and get additional information. We're not going to cover everything today. We're not going to beat you to death, go size by size or anything like that. This is just going to be an open conversation, so back and forth conversation. And if you have questions right there, you're just going to open up that box, click on the questions, and you can type in whatever you have for questions. We got Chris and Brett behind the screens here that are going to be grabbing those questions and pumping them out to us so we can get you the proper answers. So without further ado, we don't want to keep you here too long. We're going to talk about electrification and a couple different terms that are out there: beneficial electrification or strategic electrification. And don't kill the messengers, guys. You know, this is just what's going on, and especially there, that New York City Local Law 97, decarbonization, right? There's plans to try to clean everything up and make our world a better place. So we're lucky enough, we partnered with Electro probably going on 3 to 4 years ago now. The pandemic gets me all screwed up on timing, but we partnered with these guys. They have great equipment. They've been around since 1974, so this is not their first show, not their first rodeo. They've been making these boilers for quite some time. They have a bunch of other products that they offer. Good quality product, backed by a great warranty, right? Get that out of the way right up front. 20-year warranty on the vessel, 20-year warranty on the elements. About 90% of everything they make right in Monticello, Minnesota. So, you know, a real USA driven product. So that's we like that. We're a family business. They're a family business. Kind of good synergies between the two. They got a great trailer. We've had their trailer in our New York and New Jersey footprint several times. We've taken that out to contractors and just went through and showed them, you know, all the products. It's not just boilers, right? They have you'll see an air-to-water heat pump. You'll see, we won't show you today, get into all the boost heaters for ductwork and different things along those lines, air exchange heaters. That's going to be in the catalog. We're just going to talk mostly about the boiler side of it today.
Right, yeah. And as John said, we don't want, you know, please don't kill the messenger, because we have been talking about this with our contracting customers for quite a bit of time now. And a lot of guys do get upset about this, but in reality, it is happening. We can't stop it. And we're offering you guys a great solution with the Electro product. We generate a lot of leads in this territory. Yeah. This territory is generating a lot of leads, obviously in New York because of some of the codes that are changing there. But even here in New Jersey, we are generating a lot of leads. So this is something that is happening now. And if you're tuning in today, we're happy you're here for this, because, again, it's going to happen. So we might as well be prepared.
Yeah, if you guys see, you know, we see the New York, New Jersey market. Dean, Dennis, you guys want to chime in on what you're seeing across the rest of the country? That'd be helpful too. We do see it right there on the screen, but what you guys can add is important.
The city, I think it's Ithaca, New York, I think is Cornell University is also looking at banning natural gas. So we're seeing this in maybe smaller areas throughout the country, but yeah, it is in fact real, and it's good to be prepare your business for this change.
Yeah, a lot of what we're seeing too is the price of natural gas is going up, the price of fossil fuels is going up, and people are inquiring, they're looking into it, they're studying what does electric solution look like, and they're looking for people to help them, and that's us, that's you guys, that they can call and say, hey, I want an electric solution. What does that look like? And it's all over the country, all over across the country. Even in Texas, New Mexico, where this week has been like New Mexico week. I've got like 6 calls already, and it's only Wednesday, from people in New Mexico that want electric boilers. So it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, three years ago, we might have talked about, guys with electric boilers a couple times maybe once or twice a month. Now it's almost a daily conversation.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the change. So okay, so let's roll through here. I need yeah, there we go. So beneficial electrification, is it good or bad? Again, like we said to start, whether we like it or not, this is what's happening, right? There's codes driving this. Because the codes are driving it, we're starting to get, calls through Electro or directly to us, even from homeowners, not just from contractors. So there's definitely a mindset that's starting to change. Not going to happen overnight, but as Dennis said, we want to be prepared, and that's why we're getting in front of you with products like this to show you that we're ready for whatever the next step is in this electrification process. So our biggest concern, our biggest fear, we always have this conversation internally, is about the grid, right? Electric cars, everybody's going electric. What does it look like? Air-to-air heat pumps, air-to-water heat pumps. This is all electric forms of heating your home and electric boilers. So what about the grid, right? Is it ready for it? Well, we all feel no, it's probably not. So don't just look at this as you're going with an electric boiler and just have blinders on and not recognize, how you can incorporate electric with gas or whatever it may look like on an installation. And the nice thing about working with Electro is that they have a control on their boiler that gives it the ability to work with, a dual fuel application. So we could have this as our primary source. And then when we get into some colder temperatures where we're looking for higher outputs of our boiler, asking it to run up to 180 degrees, maybe we pull on that gas boiler and take care of that with the gas boiler for those short periods of time. So a lot of options here. Please don't think we're dictating that, this is going to replace every single boiler out there, whether it's a new installation or a retrofit installation. We just want to open your eyes up to options, and this is a good option on most applications, but there's going to be areas where this will really perform at high levels where we have low temp type applications. Right. So that's kind of what we're hunting for.
Yeah, in our territory, since we have so much natural gas, so much oil, yep, especially on the island, right?
Yep.
And so much propane in our further western areas, these hydronic systems are already there. So if the boiler replacement in the future needs to be electric, it's going to be a hybrid system. I can't see all that disappearing, so we'll have a hybrid system. But going into new construction, things to look for as making this product an offering is if they're building the building to higher codes, higher standards, tighter buildings, lower water temperatures. And if you guys have been following our webinars, Anthony Tassi did a webinar on, lower temperature systems. Yep. This is where we can really take advantage of these products, because your piping and everything, as we're going to go into this webinar, are going to change dramatically.
No.
The controls that this company has for the product is phenomenal, because we can really dial in based on the actual BTUs of the system. So hybrid systems, standalone systems, this is where we're going to be playing with this product. What do you think, Dean?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are hitting it right on the money. The dual fuel, being able to run gas with electric is a great way to get into it. That's one of the things we talk to a lot of homeowners about. They say, I'm just going to get rid of my gas and go electric. And it's like, well, you can have an existing oil or gas system. You can add an electric boiler to it, run a dual fuel for, a year or two, see which one, how you like it, and then make the decision to abandon gas or get rid of the oil. Dual fuel has been around. Dennis and I have been promoting dual fuel for 20 years in the upper Midwest. So it's a system that works really, really well. And it's very simple too. You know, a lot of people think, oh, this must be just a complex control strategy and it's going to require a lot of babysitting. The contractor's worried I'm going to have to go back and, you know, flip this thing back and forth. And it's a flip of a switch, a simple flip of a switch to go back and forth. So we can make it very easy to get in that type of system.
Now that flip, I'm sorry, Dennis, is that flip of the switch homeowner driven, automatically driven?
It could be either way. Yeah, you could do it. You can walk over and push it. You can do you know, in our area here in the upper Midwest, the power companies drive it based on demand. You know, it's a program called load control or dual fuel off peak, where, you know, if they're when it's 20 below zero and there's a heavy demand for electricity, they send out a signal that remotely shuts down electric boilers and switches them over to gas for usually a 3 or 4 hour period, maybe a little bit longer, just depending on the time of day. But the homeowner does nothing. All they do, they don't have to worry about anything. They just sit back and relax. They can do it manually if it's something where they're kind of watching. And maybe you guys are going to get into solar a little bit. You know, people build up solar credits, so they'll run their boiler, use up their solar credits, and then decide, well, okay, I'm down on solar credits. I'm going to go and run gas for a while, and they can just walk over to the boiler, flip the switch, and then they'll run on gas until they build up solar again.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. You know, we tell people don't single source your energy. What dual fuel gives that capability of utilizing any source of heat of, in this case, electric, but keeping your oil in place there, because you never know that the changes of pricing in the market there where oil becomes more attractive. Right now, oil is pretty high in that market, and where electric gives you that capability to give you, the homeowner, the contractor, homeowner, the control of utilizing any heat source you want at any given time. So we don't single source our stock portfolio into one stock. We spread it out. So it's a way to rethink the way you utilize your existing heating system.
Yeah, and we're all about the right appliance for the application, right? We preach that on a daily basis. So is an electric boiler the right product for an application? Well, yeah, it could be. Is dual fuel the right appliances for the application? Yeah, it could be. Really, there's no wrong answer here. It's just a matter of what do I know, what don't I know? And to us, you know, one of the most important things is always doing the math, right? You know, we're the TACO guys. We preach, do the math all the time. So for us, it's all about that. And when we say go in and do the math, you know, whether it's Manual J or whatever brand of software you use to calculate the home, it becomes critically important here, because in our footprint, we know that we have a lot of oversized equipment. And in that oversized equipment category, we have a lot that are grossly oversized. So when we're talking about electric, we can't oversize equipment, and we'll get into the reasons why. But some of the things we look for and that we preach when we're talking with contractors, yes, I want to go with an electric boiler. My homeowner, maybe it's homeowner driven, they tell the contractor they want to go with an electric boiler. Great. Do the math. Do your heat load program, whatever that may be. Always look at, you know, what type of heat emitters do I have? Is it radiant? Boy, that leans right towards this, right? Condensing modulating boilers, right? We're the NTI guys. We can marry that up with a condensing modulating piece of equipment. This modulates. We have stage and full modulation. So we have an electric modulating boiler here. So speaking to the boiler guys right now, you're used to condensing modulating equipment. Okay, this is modulating equipment. We're not worried about condensing. Okay, we don't care about return water temperature. That's not a thing here in the electric boiler world. Okay, heat emitters. Am I doing fan coils, right? Well, if you're doing fan coils, you probably definitely want a dual fuel source if you don't have low temperature fan coils, because they're going to be asking for 180 degrees, and we'd like to run, whether it's a heat pump or an electric boiler, we want to run them at, you know, a little bit cooler temperatures. There's a benefit to doing that. Even on that condensing modulating piece of equipment, you know, the ratings on them are usually 120, 140. If you're running them up to 180, they're not running at those high efficiency numbers that they're posted on the side of the unit. So just food for thought. I always pull, if it's an aquastat, if it's a piece of equipment that's being removed and they have an aquastat on there, I always pull the aquastat off, and we, ask all salespeople to pull the aquastat off, or technicians that are selling. Find out what the old system was running at. If the old system's running at 200 degrees, you have to dive deeper and find out why that system was running at 200 degrees. Do I not have enough heat emitters in the home? Right? That would not be a great application for a standalone electric boiler or a air to water heat pump type system. So things to think about. I'll go a step further. If you're going there, and with the rebates in our footprint right now we're the Fujitsu guys, right? So if I'm putting a Fujitsu system in, but I have a couple of small radiant zones, and I want to achieve that full rebate for the homeowner and get them off of that grossly oversized boiler now, because I'm going to do the whole house with heat pumps, but I have a zone or two of radiant, master bathroom, and the kitchen, let's call it.
Great combination.
Now I'm going to take and grab one of our little electric boilers, put that in, get them off of the oil tank or get them off of the gas pipe, and achieve that last rebate to cover the cost of that boiler install.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. John's alluding to doing that math, making sure we're making the heat loss, or figuring out what that heat loss is. And after that, you're going to go and measure your radiation to see, hey, I can probably now run lower temperature because I have more radiation than I need. As John just alluded to, on the radiant side, this is going to boost radiant systems again, because you still have homeowners that want this. And now we're trying to marry a lot of different systems together, air to water, refrigerator, air to air, but we're still doing radiant systems. So this electric boiler then makes it perfectly, it's the perfect marriage. No venting.
No venting.
No venting.
Big deal.
Gentlemen, this is a huge deal.
Big deal.
Because we look for venting first when we're doing our other gas appliances. We got to make sure we can vent it properly. No venting here. Really no space to combustibles. I can put this in a closet and make it, disappear. So you have a lot of options. This is going to open up the creative side of your business to really give Mr. and Mrs. Smith a lot of options.
Yeah, how about flood areas, right? No more in the basement. You can put this thing on the first floor in the closet, bolt it to the wall, and quiet. Operation, you ever hear electric water heater? Okay, well, do you hear electric water heater? You hear a combustion fan or anything on an electric water heater? No, we don't need a combustion fan here. We're not venting anything. So that's a big deal to us. We, like I said, for us, I think we're really going to lean on the hybrid systems. It just makes a lot of sense, unless that piece of equipment that's in the home has completely died and the homeowner's insisting on going with an electric product. Great, we have a product for that. So, Jim, you just did your load calculation, and you don't believe it, because these guys, nobody believes it, right?
Nobody believes it.
If they need a 3-section, they're putting in a 5, no matter what, right? So that's real. We know it's real. You want that comfort factor. So you just did your manual J or brand X. Again, we don't care what brand. You could always go to the homeowner and say, hey, let me have last year's fuel bills, and based on what that product is, you can work that math backwards to make sure that you are sizing the boiler correctly, right? And just get that extra level of comfort that, they had, I'll give you an example. So if we had a 150,000 BTU boiler in someone's home, whatever, oil, gas, doesn't matter, it's 150,000 BTU. And you just went there and read off the label and said, okay, this is a 150,000 BTU boiler. Well, 150,000 BTU boiler, you're probably on a 20 amp circuit if it's an oil or gas boiler, right? You're running that whole system. Well, if you're going to say, I'm going to put in this electric boiler right here, and I'm just going to match what's there, even though it's probably grossly oversized, I'm going to put a 150,000 BTU electric boiler in, which we flip over to kWs, right? 3413 per kW. I'm going to need 225 amp breakers. So you just took yourself completely out of that job, because it's very, very rare you're ever going to find someone that has, geez, I got a space in my panel for 225 amp breakers, and they got a 200 amp service coming into the house. That math doesn't work. So if you take the time and you did the manual J and you backed up your fears with going through their load calculations of their bills from maybe 1 or 2 years prior, you'll find out that really they only need, what did we put in there, Jim? Like I think it was 102,000 BTU boiler, which is a 50 amp breaker. Now that job becomes realistic. So when we're talking, heat pumps, air to water heat pumps, Electric boilers, we have to do the math and we have to size these things properly. If not, you're just going to be, you're not going to be awarded that job. And that's our goal, is to help you guys, grow your business and look for alternatives to what we're currently doing, because the government right now is telling us that's what we have to do. So we can fight that. We can do it. We can jump up and down, stomp our feet. It's happening.
It's happening. No, heat loss
So
is
you guys can add whatever you want to that. I hope we covered just about everything there, but that's the doing the math part.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think somebody came through there years ago and sold all 3-section cast iron boilers, and it was a one size fits all. And so doing the math, of course, is going to, just exactly like you said, we're going to dial in to what you need for BTU size, which is going to give way to a lower electrical panel size. A lot of people there may have 100 amp electrical panels that perhaps can limit them in some aspects. But 200 amp electrical panels, we can do all sorts of heating with that as well, Dean, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've always heard, and I heard this years ago, and maybe it was Dan Holland said a contractor would drive by a house and he would hold up his thumb, and if his thumb covered the house, that was 150,000 BTU boiler.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the rule of thumb came by.
Across the street, yeah. That's a 4-section. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the method of sizing, and it's tough, because that doesn't work in today's world with the new products that are coming on the market, and even the products that are established in the marketplace, but may be new to a contractor. So it's all about doing that math, and they can lean on us to help walk through, whatever it is. We do that on a daily basis. We don't do theoretically load calculations, but we can, after they have their load calculations figured out, or if they need help figuring out what the BTU of a gallon of propane is or whatever, we got all that stuff ready to go.
Yeah, the other
You
thing.
can also, go ahead, Dean.
No, a lot of people too, when they're looking at upgrading their boiler or doing a change out, they're doing insulation upgrades. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that, yeah, we're putting a boiler, and we just spray foamed our walls or our attic. We added insulation, we put new windows in. So people, they're getting rebates for tightening up their house, so they're improving that heat loss tremendously too. So we got to take that into account as well. Listen to their whole story when they're telling you what they're doing.
Yeah, the old 50 BTU theory per square foot just doesn't work anymore. So
Right.
Yeah, some guys are looking
at
with 100 amp electrical panels. You may just dip your toe in the water of electric. It may be partial load that with maybe half the size of the BTUs that you really need, but then you have that ability to switch right over to that oil heat source, where it's going to work better when it's at colder temperatures. It's going to work at optimal efficiency when it's below. So, it may not, if you have a 100 amp panel, you can still put electric in. It's just that you may not be able to take the full load capability, but it's another avenue to go for the contractor to provide homeowners with electric heating.
Right, because 3% of the year we're at design temperature. The bulk of the year we're at 30 to 40% of the BTU capacity of that piece of equipment. So easily we can put that together and make it happen.
I just want to add one quick thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in all of our webinars, but this is really the opportunity right now for the contractor. You are an energy consultant. I've already talked to some of the larger contractors, and they are offering now upgrades in insulation, for that homeowner to make the house tighter. This is important.
Windows, insulation, whatever it might be.
This is really a golden opportunity to build your business.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, you got the time. So another big concern, right, when you're asking guys to, whether it's change boiler manufacturers or start putting in something different, they're always worried about, oh man, I'm so used to piping my boiler a certain way. Well, we got a pipe coming out of the bottom of this boiler. We got a pipe going out of the top of this boiler. I don't think we can get much simpler than that. You're just going to do your normal near boiler piping, no primary, secondary required, very low pressure drop across the heat exchanger. I don't know, Vanna, if you'd like to open those doors up, that'd be wonderful. So, we'll see the heat exchanger in here. I think I got the screws in just a little. We can show you the heat exchanger. That whole thing will pull right off. There we go.
Sorry about that.
So that'll come right off. Here's our breaker. This is our heat exchanger, insulated heat exchanger. There's 4 Phillips head screws that this whole top panel comes off. The heating elements are right here. It would pull straight up. Looks kind of like a electric water heater element looks, but 20-year warranty on the vessel and 20-year warranty on the heating element. So that's a big deal. Again, no primary, secondary piping, and very low pressure drop across the heat exchanger, which is important, right, when you're sizing your circulators, or we're sizing your circulators for you or with you. So that's a big deal. And, you know, you guys all have beautiful jobs that look like this. And instead of having an oil or a gas appliance there, it has a electric boiler in that application. So easy to do, whether it's a radiant, baseboard, you know, whatever type of heating it is. This is what it would look like. And then we would talk about, you know, getting into that hybrid mode, right? And tying a electric boiler into a gas boiler, into an oil boiler, whatever that looks like, whatever you have. And then you can pick a time, you know, when you want them to switch back and forth. You guys can dive into that. You got a lot more experience than we do with the dual fuels. Where's your transition point normally?
Well, it's all going to depend on, you know, the peak of the utility company is where they're going to shed that load automatically. And kind of backing up a couple slides, you know, you're talking about, you know, can the grid handle the amount of influx of electric heat that's coming? I think this is going to give way to programs, and I think some parts of New York, perhaps New Jersey area, do have these electric utilities do have a means of time of use rates, where they're going to give you a low electric rate during the day, and then they're going to have peak times between typically when people come home and the evening meals made from 5 to 9 p.m. and then in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m. And so what they're going to do is probably, you know, they're probably going to create these programs there and then utilize equipment there from their end to control that electric boiler off of that peak, and then it'll handshake it right over to the backup oil or gas boiler. So those type of programs will give way to that dual fuel hybrid type of heating systems as we move this grid, and it goes along with the electrification movement.
Yeah, there's and the you know, some of the methods of that too. You know, there's some power companies that put equipment right on the house that interacts with the boiler. There's some on the East Coast. I think the one that comes to mind is in New Hampshire. You know, different territory, but they have a time clock program where, you know, you just put a time clock on that shuts the boiler off or switches it over from at those same times Dennis mentioned. You know, the morning time, the kind of the morning rush and the evening rush. And, you know, a lot of times they'll even give you a better rate for heating overnight. If that boiler can do a majority of its heating overnight when the load is the lowest. They can't shut a power plant down. They got to keep it running. So they've always got to be feeding power into the grid. And if they can get people to use that in the times when there's not a big demand, that's attractive to them. And that's when they start giving the better rates. And yeah, like Dennis said, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of those programs start to pop up.
Yeah, back in the 70s, my cousin had a electric baseboard home, and he had those flexible rates at night. He could, you know, I remember insulating his attic with him, you know, double insulating his attic with him. So at night he'd crank the thermostats all the way up and superheat the home, so it would kind of hold throughout the day when he had to pay higher rates. But you know, things have gotten a little better with smart meters and things like that. So yeah, definitely leaning towards that for sure. So here's our hybrid screen, just talking about that hybrid heating, switching fuels, dual fuels, definitely a great avenue to go. I'm sure, Brett, I don't think you've gotten any questions yet, or we're good, or you're answering them. No. But, you know, one question we'll get is, as we do a hybrid system, you know, what BTU should the electric boiler be compared to the existing oil or gas boiler? And the answer is going to be depends, right? So it depend on what they can handle for electricity coming out of their panel. That's a driving force. And then Do we want this 100? Do we want it 50, 100? What combination? What do you guys see across the country for electric to fossil fuel combination most of the time?
We did just get one.
Again, it does kind of depend. We do see a lot of it. And you made the point, we don't sit at our design temperature all the time. We'll see a lot of boilers sized, to that, 20 to, 20 degrees outside. Here in the upper Midwest, they're probably sized to about 90% of the load. But, if they've got the service panel, we've got people that run that electric pretty much as their primary heat source all year round if they get the better rate. So, it's kind of a little bit all over the place. As when we talk about heat pump boilers and stuff like that, we talk about backup a little bit more. But with the straight electric boiler, we can size it to handle it if they have the power. But I don't know. Maybe Dennis, do you have any? We're working for the utility. I think a lot of people. If they get the rate, they let that electric boiler run. Because another thing that we do too, which kind of helps, is we can have built-in timers into our controls where we can say let the boiler run for 90 minutes or an hour, and if it can't keep up, switch to gas. So that gives us, and that's all automatic. So that gives us a little bit of a leeway too. If we think, okay, I size this, this is the biggest boiler I could put on this electric service. It can probably do it 80%, 90% of the time, but we've got that gas to fall back on. Well, maybe it'll surprise you. Maybe you hit 0 and that boiler's doing just fine. But if it can't, eventually time will run out and it's going to automatically switch over to gas. So yeah, we've got all that strategy built in too to kind of just to cover you, so you don't have to worry about a no heat or not having enough heat in the space.
Great. All right, we got a question, and then we'll just touch on those controls for a minute because that's important for everyone to understand. Go ahead, Brett.
Jeff Kelly asks, do the power loads modulate, or is a buffer tank always a must?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Yeah.
You guys prefer buffer tanks, or we're good straight out of the boiler? Straight out of the boiler.
Straight out of the boiler. Why? Buffer tanks are just standby heat loss. Or because we modulate down, we can modulate down to one element. We can modulate down to 1,000 BTUs. So even if you have that micro zone of a one loop in a bathroom floor or floor tile, something we run into a lot is, people put Italian marble tile in their kitchen floors and it's cold all summer, so they heat it up. They run 80-degree water through it in the summertime. We can modulate down to one element. No need for buffer tanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and yeah, those micro zones, right? When we do gas-fired equipment, oil-fired equipment, our bottom is our bottom, and we talk about that all the time. When we modulate down, there's a limit to where we can modulate. Here, we can modulate down to probably below any micro zone.
Yeah, right.
So that's a big deal. That's a great question. So awesome. Back to your controls, though. One of the neatest things, again, we're the Taco guys. We sell a lot of panels, but when we seen your panel where we can actually dial in the flow rate for each heat circuit that we control with that panel, and then with the EZB boiler with the abilities within that control, you guys want to just dive into that a little bit and just let everybody know what you guys build and how they work so that they can dial the system in exactly?
Yeah, so you showed a picture of it there a couple of slides ago, that the EZB boiler, where it's we've got the boiler vessel, the expansion tank, the pump, the air eliminator, all built into one cabinet, and then we've created what we call our EZB Edge control board, where you can actually control 4 zones right from the main control board, and we give you zone pump relays or zone valve relays, whatever you want to use. But within that control, we have the ability to prioritize the 4 zones. We can do different temperatures for each zone based on that priority. So let's say you have 3 zones of radiant floor, but you had to do a radiator or radiator, how you guys say it.
Get that accent right.
Or some staple. I'm from the Midwest. Yeah. Or some staple up where we want to go from 100-degree water in the floor to 130-degree in a staple up, or 150 in the baseboard. That boiler can actually shift temperatures based on the zone that's calling, and then we'll just lock out those low temp zones. So it's pretty cool setup. And then even for indirect water heating, that's, and maybe you guys are going to talk about this a little bit, but big question we get is, can we do the domestic hot water with our boilers? And we're not a true combi boiler, so you have to pipe in an indirect heat exchanger tank for the domestic, but we can do a priority high temp where we can ramp up to 160-degree water, take care of that domestic load, and then ramp back down for the lower temps going into the floor. And so, yeah, that's our easy B. That's kind of our smart control. And we've got a basic control line too. A lot of our boilers just have the basic, give it a heat call and it starts to heat to set point. But we still have those dual fuel controls built in where we can time out to a gas backup. So we can make it as absolutely simple as you want, or we can really give you the ability to kind of dial in that system, really fine tune and dial in that system.
Yeah, what's nice about our equipment is that, you make the electric boilers, of course, but also we make the zone control. So its ability to seamlessly mesh the two together versus ABC, XYZ zone controllers that send over just a simple dry contact over to the gas or oil boiler, and then it says, okay, I'm running. But we have the ability to say, okay, we're going to dial a BTU per zone. And we're gonna hold off either in priority these other zones, or we're gonna limit the firing rate of that electric boiler based on the BTU sizing of that particular load. So that's what gives us a lot more control capability to stage off boilers and utilize that modulation stage when needed, and much better control versus a simple switch and go full output and dial down. So very powerful means of meshing it together.
I don't know, Jim. Sounds like they did the math.
They did the math. They did the math.
They did the math, yeah. And that was really cool when we had the trailer. We showed guys how we can dial in, each one of those heat circuits. So by doing the math and having the proper BTU size boiler and figuring out what each heat circuit needs, now we're not going to overflow one zone and rob from another. We can dial them in to heat the home properly. And that's going to be more critical as, fuel costs and electric costs continue to rise, right? We want to make sure that we're marrying up, and every dollar bill that I put into this machine, I want to get as much of that dollar back into the house as I can.
Plus, it's hard to see here, but they give a lot of information right on the boiler. So here's the outdoor reset curve. Sticker, it's right on the inside of the door. So once you decide on, what you're doing, how you're setting up your system, no guessing on the curve once you know what you're going to be, designing your system to. And everybody remember around here, our average coldness is 14. And what is it? 60% of the time we're at 40% demand.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, so good. We sparked up a couple additional questions. Brett will fire those questions out here.
You've got 3 in the queue.
Good.
So the first one is from Dan. Does this electric boiler utilize staged capacity or modulation with triacs?
So,
It's
Dennis, or
yeah.
Dean, sorry.
So we have a couple of different model series. So we have our modulating series is basically a combination of staging and modulating, to where, again, depending on the size of the boiler. So let's say you have a 20 kW boiler, 68,000 BTUs. We're going to fire that in 4 stages, and the first stage we're going to modulate, because that'll give us our fine tuning of that temperature output. But then we can just stage the other 3 elements. And what you might see, we put LED lights on the inside, and what you might see is, first stage will come on, second stage will come on. We start maybe the third, we get to temperature, and you can watch your gauge and you can see your dial. Okay, I'm right at my set point temperature. You might see first stage start to pulse on and off. It might start modulating. Or if that temperature keeps climbing a little bit, maybe a zone shut off and our flow dropped, and we start seeing a temperature rise, you might see stage 3 back off, stage 2 back off, and then stage 1 just sit and modulate. So we really got a very controlled firing order for that. Some of the new product that's going to be coming out here shortly, we're going to full modulation. We're going to be fully modulating all the elements so we can really dial that in a lot tighter. So it's Yeah, it's pretty cool the way we could just, like I say, you can see that set point, let's say 120-degree water or whatever, and you can watch the needle on the gauge sit at 120, and it'll just stay there during that whole entire heat call.
Right, and then you'll just cut the signal to element number one, pulse element number one, to maintain that target temperature.
Yep, and we use what's called a triac, or I like to call it a fast acting relay. There's
Yep.
no points in there closing. It's all solid state control, so it's just like a SCR. It's just a firing voltage, so there's no moving parts inside of it. So there's nothing to wear out. We can modulate that first element, 60 times a minute if we want. We could be pulsing that thing 1 second on, 1 second off, if we had to, and there's no concern about that thing burning out or wearing out.
So that answers his question perfectly. All right, you got another one?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Beautiful.
Ed's got a couple questions here. He wants to know efficiency rating, rebates, current availability, maintenance, indirect water heater, and is a factory certification training available?
So yes to almost all of those. Yes.
That's a lot.
Indirect water heater.
maintenance.
Yes, we can train them up.
Yeah.
Rebates, that's something, depends on where you are. We got to look for rebates. That's the only one that we have a question mark on. But pretty much yes to everything that he asked.
Efficiency rating.
Efficiency rating, well, it's hard to give you efficiency rating because it's 100% efficient because the element is submerged in the vessel. So we have 100% exchange of energy going in there. We don't put AFU ratings on there like on boilers. So that's the only thing you can really look at is we got to look at cost per kW compared to cost of fuel, and we break it down that way to see, what the overall cost would be to operate an electric boiler compared to a gas or an oil appliance.
And availability.
Availability is, these guys are right in Minnesota. We normally get stuff from them within like 5 days.
I mean, jacket was.
We can build it. We have it in stock. We can build it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I want to go back to.
We've gotten million BTU electric boilers from these guys in less than 14 days. So, they're right here. They work with us. We have a direct contact. These guys got up at, 4:30 this morning to run into the office and be on this call with us. So we have access to the right people.
I want to kind of go back to regarding the staging and modulating, and we make both boilers, 2 different models. Could be in the same framework behind you gentlemen. It looks exactly the same. The difference is adding that triac or SCR control on it. So the modulating, you have a lot of oil systems, older systems, radiators, and baseboard systems that require higher temperature water. Make sure you go down the path of utilizing modulating boilers that have that capability of getting up to 180, and then utilizing staging boilers perhaps, or modulating for your lower temp below 160. So keep in mind, think modulating all the time on baseboard systems there. You need that higher temp because it's capable of 180 degrees.
So I'll throw a question at you here that I'm hoping is going to come across that screen real quick. If we have the micro zones, should we still go with the modulating boiler, or can we stage and get down that low? I hope that's going to come in.
Yeah, modulating would be your best bet there, to have that boiler dial it down and watching that supply water temperature and just going to stage off, and modulate to give you really accuracy of 2-degree separation from set point.
So that's really, this gets you into that world where, we're not waiting for that big swing in your wall controller to activate, and I feel cold, then I feel warm. Yeah, so this is neat.
Homeowner's never going to know. It's just going to be simmering along.
So yeah, a lot of good information there. So if we were to dial this in to be a hybrid type system, this is what it would look like. We got a oil or gas boiler there on the left, and then we got the electric boiler right there on the right. We're going to pipe them in. Yes, you do see primary, secondary here, but that's only because we're doing multiple boilers. If this was a single boiler, it would just be in and out. But that is why you're seeing primary, secondary here, because we're doing multiple boilers. So I don't want to confuse anyone. We've been saying no primary, secondary all day. Just explain why you're seeing it the way it is there.
Right.
And the gentleman earlier had a question about maintenance. So I waited till we got to this screen to talk about maintenance. I mean, there's not a whole lot here on the electric boiler side. You're going to look at maintenance. If an element fails, obviously you're going to replace an element. That has a 20-year warranty on it. Other than that, you're going to come in, you're going to look and make sure you have no hydronic leaks anywhere. Make sure that's all good. If there's dust inside the jacket, you're going to want to vacuum the dust out. You know, check all your electrical components, make sure everything is working properly, and really that's your maintenance on the piece of equipment.
We're looking for leaks in this system too.
Right, yes, right. All the hydronic connections,
That's right.
right? Looking for that.
Yeah.
On a hydronic system, whether it's a gas or oil system, a condensing boiler system, which, you know, has to be cleaned
A
yearly,
lot of maintenance.
right? A lot of maintenance. So we just need to understand, you know, the appliance that's in there, what the maintenance requirements are, and that will drive the cost and tell you, you know, whether if you're paying a little more for electricity than you are for gas or oil, adding that maintenance fee on there, where does that overall product land? And what are you comfortable with as a homeowner? That's really what it comes down to. Oh, you got
Yeah,
another
I might
question?
add there too on the maintenance sides there, John, is there is really none for the electric boiler, but it wouldn't hurt to check electrical connections.
Right.
From time to time, shutting off the breakers on both sides from the electrical panel right down to the boiler itself, and just give them a tweak to make sure they're on there nice and tight, because expansion and contraction of that connection can happen, could give way to a loose connection that can have a burn connection on there. But it's easy to visualize, but it's worth the time to shut off power and give it a little tweak.
Okay, good.
All right.
We got more questions.
Got a couple questions. So
Go.
Jeff has a few. So he says, how does the power consumption compare to the air-to-water heat pump? Would electric boiler be a good extreme backup to air-to-water primary systems? He's building a place in North Georgia and West North Carolina, and they're super insulated passive homes of roughly 2,000 square feet.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's,
Annual J, 27,000 BTU.
yeah, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. Yeah, I mean, that's a win for, you know, whether it's our air to water, whether it's our electric boiler. Yeah, that's a win. I mean, any home that's built that way, that's basically where these things fit in there, and they will run, you know, the cost of operation is going to be extremely low because of the envelope. It's always about the envelope. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and with our air to water too, the backup it's all integrated, so you don't even
Right.
have to worry about doing anything. The boiler takes care of itself. If you get that rare cold day, it'll lean on the backup a little bit more. But yeah, when you're talking efficiency, then you're going to be getting into the air to water system. You know, electric boilers are 100% efficient. Every bit of energy that they consume gets converted to heat. With an air to water system, it's a different story because we're getting free energy from the outside air, and we're talking efficiencies over 300%, 400%.
Yeah, I always relate this to, you know, vending machines. You take a dollar bill out of your pocket, I put it into that air to water, which we'll show you in a little while. I'm going to get $3 back into the building, depending on outdoor temperature with that. So 80, you know, after you 80-degree cast iron boiler, I put that dollar in, I get, you know, approximately 80 cents into the house and 20 cents goes to the outside. So, you know, that's what the envelope, again, is the most important thing when it comes to overall annual cost of operation. You got another question there, Brett?
Yeah. So Jeff also had asked, he said, I heard 160 to 180 never run higher than 130 degrees in our hydronics.
Perfect. We love it.
Fantastic.
We love it. We wish all systems were like that, because that would make everything run better, smoother, and last longer.
He's ringing the bell.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a couple other questions.
Go.
Stephen asks, are these boilers sensitive to standby generator power?
Oh,
So if we have a generator backup, do we have any time delay, or do we have anything that waits for smooth, clean power before we pull on, or should we have a phase monitor in front of it?
There's no delay. You know, that's a good question. You know, a lot of times what we run into is when they have a standby generator, if they don't, you know, sometimes the boiler is too big for that standby generator. You know, a lot of times what we run into is we can get creative with a relay to interrupt stages. You know, we've done that. Or it could be as simple as if you have a 20 kW boiler, shut one breaker off so you're down to 10 kW. and then you can, maybe that can handle the load. The generator can handle that load. You know, we have ways that we can limit the control of those elements, but it does get a little bit more involved. So, you know, if you're doing a standby generator and you need that boiler to react differently, it would be something we'd have to kind of chat through and figure that out for you. But we've done it. We actually used to do generator transfer switches back in the early 2000s. So we've got drawings, we've got ideas for all that stuff in our heads already. So.
Yeah, any of the systems we're doing where we have a generator, a lot of times we'll put a phase monitor in, and that'll delay the power going to the appliance until it's clean and proper power is in line. You can set those phase monitors to a certain range.
Right.
So we just look at the range this runs within, and we set that and go from there. Yeah, another one? Good.
Does it need to be wired to a GFI breaker?
No.
There's no neutral run to the boiler. It's just 240. It's your two hots and a ground. There's no neutral. So yeah, you wouldn't be on a GFI. Your pump could be, but not the actual boiler control.
We got one last one. How important is water quality? Does it ever need flushing?
Water quality is important on anything appliance, from your dishwasher to a tankless water heater to an electric boiler. One nice thing about this, we talked about low pressure drop. This is a wide open vessel in here with heating elements in there. So probably will work a little bit better with not great water, but we need to treat the water. I mean, that's a must in our world.
Yeah, typically we're talking closed loop systems. So there's usually not a whole lot of new scale introduced, but if it's pretty aggressive, if the water is really hard or it's got a lot of mineral content, there's so many good boiler water treatment devices out there, additives. You can use glycol with our boilers. You can use additives. What happens is the element rod, when they get super hot, when they're heating the water, when they cool, after the boiler shuts off, they kind of become a magnet, and that's when the hardness precipitates and starts sticking to the elements. And a little bit doesn't hurt anything. Usually what starts happening over time, I've gone out on boilers that had been in for 15 years and all of a sudden started making all kinds of noise, and take the elements out and they're coated or they're bridged, and it's just a matter of it was just water quality. Take those elements out. A lot of times you can clean them, put them back in, but if you start with good quality, good clean water quality, you've got nothing to worry about for a long time.
So Dean, if they're replacing the cast iron, they're going to do a complete cast iron change out. We always recommend, even if it's a condensing boiler, that they're going to pre-treat the system before they take the boiler out.
Right.
Then they cut the boiler out, drain it out. Then as they fill the system again, now they're treating it to stop the corrosion.
Right.
So if it was a new install, I would probably do the corrosion part of it anyway, correct?
Right. Yep. Any kind of those inhibitors work really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Take out mag dirt separator on there for that cast iron system, and on the return, and keep that flushed and clean, and away you go.
Perfect.
So this screen's been up for a while. I'm sure everybody on the other end already read it, so I won't sit here and go through it, but this just kind of compares, the fossil fuel to electric maintenance cost. That was the question was asked earlier. So that was important, and you jumped on it earlier, little solar. We generate some solar power. We can take and use that electric to offset the additional cost of running an electric appliance. So that's a big benefit. So we have progressive contractors out there that do solar and they do boilers, and this is a great combination to offset some of that utility cost. So definitely an option to think about for those guys out there that are, again, trying to grow their business in a different way and be different than everybody else would, white vans.
We get calls daily. I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
We get calls daily. We get calls daily on PV systems out in the East Coast, daily. New England market, your immediate market, Maryland, every day we get a call and going, okay, I'm going PV. I want to utilize most of my PV system and not having to, through net metering, sell that back to the electric energy or electric utility company that gives you a fraction of that energy that you produce back to you in the form of dollars or savings. They're looking at, okay, I'm going to burn them kilowatt hour credits that I have banked up into electric heating. And so we see a tremendous amount of calls coming from that market. And quite frankly, electric heating is the only thing that's going to work seamlessly and integrate with solar. Propane, gas, oil, never, ever going to work with PV systems.
Yeah, most of the electric companies are about a third back from what you generate.
Yeah.
And rumor is some of them are going to stop that. Up by me, they're supposed to put a stop to that payback. So
Yeah, they
really
have.
there'll be no value.
This
This is the way to use it. Yeah.
I have a friend who put the PV on his roof, and they're not giving him.
Yeah.
They're not accepting it.
Right.
He gets maybe a credit or two, and that's about it.
Yeah, more carbon credits than anything.
Yeah.
Got another question, Brett?
Yes, Jeff is trying to understand. So, with an air-to-water heat pump and an electric boiler backup, a low-temp system would be. Low-temp system. Would that be suitable? Electro Industries EMBS9 9kW 31K BTU hot water electric boiler 240 volt 1 phase model EBS9. Sorry for all the questions. The big problem is non-net metered areas.
Yeah, EB9 is going to get you 30,700 BTU. If that's what he needs for that home, yes, that is a great choice.
He's going in.
He's going in.
He's
Going in deep, Jeff.
He's going.
Attaboy.
And he's got the catalog.
Good job. Yeah. So that is a very popular boiler, because of these passive solar homes, they need very low BTU, or if they're doing some type of air to air or air to water heat pump type scenario, and they need to make up for a couple of radiant zones like we were talking about earlier, that boiler is, we're talking about a boiler that's this big. And it works extremely well, and it does take up for that hydronic systems in the home. They can leave it there, and they don't have to leave a 150,000 BTU boiler to take care of 20,000, 10,000 BTU load.
Size of 3 Nike shoe boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's we talked the hybrid systems. Here's another one: air to water heat pump, NorAir is what it's called here. And this is what it would look like in your system. So that actually has an electric boiler backup built in. So if you're a contractor and you like brand X outdoor unit and it works with our NorAir indoor system, we're going to take that refrigerant, we're going to run it across a coil, basically exchange the energy, the hot gas energy into the water, and we're going to send that water out to the house to heat the home. And if that cannot keep up or we get below a certain temperature, we'll just pull the electric boiler back up on to heat the home properly and get you where you need to be. So that goes right to what Jeff was asking. There's a product he can bolt on the wall, and it will all be in that cabinet, everything he's looking to do. He wouldn't have to purchase that EMB9. He may be able to do everything he needs with this if we hit his BTU targets. That comes in 3, 4, and 5 ton. So that may fit right into what he's been asking.
That's right. That's right.
What do you guys want to add on that? The NorAir, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty exciting equipment there to get the best out of the heat pump and then supplement it and help it assist it right below the balance point. A perfect system. Might add that this is a modulating boiler that's in these in our NorAir system. So if we're below balance point by 1 degree and we need a little help and assistance from the boiler, we're not going to bring on a full bank, a stage of power. We're just going to modulate like we do any other electric boiler that we do. We're just going to give you one degree assist on it, or 2 or 5. But not the whole bank of 15,000 BTUs from that particular element. Perfect combination.
Right, and you guys are okay with like pretty popular around here, a Bosch outdoor unit. You're comfortable with a Bosch outdoor unit hooking right up to our NorAir system. We don't sell the condenser. You don't make the condenser. It's going to be brand X from someone else. We're just worried about the piece that goes inside the house and make sure You know, it can meet the BTU load that you need. Again, 3, 4, and 5 ton is what we have. This is great. We're starting to get near the end here, and we're sparking a bunch of questions. So go ahead, Brett.
While we're on the NOR,
Yep.
Joe has a question. On NOR, can it be piped to a conventional air handler to be used for cooling?
Sure.
So we don't, right now, we can't do DX cooling, so the refrigerant lines would just go into the NOR air box. We do have the NCFE version, the heat cool version, where we can do chilled water cooling. You know, it's definitely something that's on our radar. We've got the system in a couple of homes where we did do DX cooling. It gets the valves, the control gets a little complicated. It's not something we're ready to put out to the world there yet, but you know, a lot of times what we're seeing with the NOR air system when they want cooling is they're doing mini splits anyway, and they're looking for something for that floor heat. And this is just a great way to keep the heat pump going in the, you know, in the home. The high efficiency, very, very high efficient way to heat your home.
Got one.
Keep going. Yep.
What's the strongest boiler? How many BTUs?
1,020,000.
Pretty close.
1,020,000 something. 1,020,230.
And you can cascade them too. So
Yeah.
And yeah, we can cascade as many of those as however many needs. We can cascade them.
Did you just impress Dennis with that?
Look, my man, see?
I was
See that
impressed.
webpage
Oh,
over there?
there you go.
Stop looking it up.
Love
He's
it.
the smartest guy in the room.
Prepared, though.
Prepared. Yes, prepared.
That's a guy who knows his BTUs. I hope Tossie's watching.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Got my
I gotta learn
BTUs.
his BTUs.
So yeah, we do have that, Brett. Any other questions?
Cleared the board right now.
The board is clear, so we can bring this to an end. So we thank everybody for hopping on here this morning. You know, this may be new technology to you guys. Again, Electro's been doing this since 1974, so that's a good thing. Dennis, Dean, we really appreciate you guys getting up early and adding to this webinar and just showing the connection we have with you guys. That if anyone out there is uncomfortable, they have Wales Darby behind them, and we have our manufacturer behind us. So it's a team of people approach that we use. We always go with the system approach. So yeah, if there's any way we can help with a system, my email's on there, Jim's email's on there. Reach out if you need additional training or would like additional training, or you have an opportunity to use an electric boiler, or you want to see the trailer next time it's in the area. We'd be happy to stop by your shop and run through it with your guys. What else you got to add, Dan?
Dean, you do webinars all the time. What's your
Yes.
next webinar coming up?
yeah, actually we're doing one tomorrow, and it's going to be, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the NOR air and electric boiler, talking about just peak, you know, the best way to design a system to maximize efficiency. So using the air to water system, we're designing low temp, you know, we'll look at a bunch of piping diagrams, talk about tubing, just talk about the different things that go into making a very, very efficient system for your customer. So yeah, you're welcome. You know, if you guys got that link and you want to share it out, feel free.
if
That's
you sign
every
up for
other
Dean-
Thursday.
Yeah, sign up for Dean's webinar. Even if you can't physically be there when he's doing it live, they're recorded and they're up on the Electro site generally by the next day.
Yep.
So it's there and you can watch it as many times as you want. Great information on those webinars that Dean puts out.
Yeah, that's a wrap. No more questions, Brett.
Pretty much there was one about whether they're okay for commercial and industrial applications.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, the one boiler is called the Industrial Series. So yeah, they're definitely good to go. Hopefully, we knocked down all the questions. Got some guys interested, and look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday. What are we doing next week, Jim? We're doing hot water next week.
We've got domestic hot water solutions.
Domestic hot water solutions next week. So appreciate everybody taking their time, spending it with us this morning. Dean, Dennis, thank you guys very much.
Thanks, guys.
Jim, Chris, Brett, thank you. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks for having
Take
us.
care.
Bye.
Take care.